Yeah, g'day, Bush Camping Tools here. Well, I want to do a follow-up on this particular knife. This is the FX610, otherwise known as the Fox Sherpa Bushcraft knife from Fox Knives, obviously, in Maniago, Italy. Now, I'm going to tell you why it's a really good knife, and that's because, first of all, it's got a great handle. I've tested this handle extensively in the wilds, you know, with wet hands, cold hands, dry hands, dusty hands, greasy hands, all sorts of things, and the grip is just really, really good. It's just a great grip. It's comfortable and it's grippy, and that's what you need in a knife, something which is comfortable and grippy, not necessarily with gloves on. The next great thing about it, of course, is the business end, and that's the blade. And the blade it's a multi-grind blade on this knife. You've got a thick wedge-shaped part of the blade here and a much thinner section towards the front here. This can facilitate, you know, work for skinning, butchering game, that kind of thing. And this thicker wedge here, see, the blade is essentially, if you ignore this swedge up here, you've got the full thickness of the blade comes right down here. So essentially this is acting as a wood wedge, you know, and that's because that's wide, the quicker that you can split the wood apart with a wider section of metal is the quicker it's going to split, isn't it? Rather, if you stick a thin part of the blade in here, besides that, this is where you'd be striking the knife here. It's kept not too heavy in the front by having this big swedge on here like that, and you've also got this choil, so you can indeed, you know, grip the knife like this for finer work. They use a type of hydroglider coating on here, Teflon coating. In this case, this knife is not made with N690, their kind of signature stainless. This is made with D2. K110 D2, which is a proven tool steel for, you know, hard use work. It's not too difficult to sharpen, and it has some basic corrosion resistance, certainly better than no chromium in there. There is a little bit of chromium in D2, but with this added coating, and it's pretty hard wearing. Okay, it's scratched off the thing here because I've been hammering the knife, but it's a really top dollar knife. You've got some great jimping up on here. That certainly here, this is acute enough, sharp enough here to strike a steel on. You've seen that possibly in a year-old video I made on this knife of using it when I introduced it on the channel. I just want to make a quick comparison here between my Tyrannus from FKMD and the Bushman Sherpa here, and that is, you can see first of all that obviously the blades are, you know, much longer here than here. This is a more manageable size for bushcrafting material where you've got better control for finer tasks. I'm not saying you can't do fine tasks with this if you know what you're doing, and I've demonstrated that in a recent video with this particular knife. Okay, so there's a lot of versatility in the blade grind of this knife, and that's what I like about it. You know, it's got a lot of extended comfort and good grip in here. It's got a good weight to it too. It doesn't feel too light and it doesn't feel too heavy. You know, I know that sounds kind of like, you know, a bit corny. You could lash this thing to some pole if you were so inclined. The other thing is I want to point out is the rear end here. Let's have a closer look at that. Fox have since changed this design. This has been rounded off here, which will make it even more comfortable. Some, I think, didn't think it was so comfortable with this, you know, part of the butt end like that, especially in the reverse like this. For my hand, it doesn't hinder it because it comes around down here, but I'd imagine if you had a bigger hand, you know, I've got an 8.5 hand, if you had a bigger hand, this would be a bit more, this could be a bit uncomfortable like that, but that has changed. This is an older model of essentially the same knife. So yeah, that's my take on this after a years of having it and using it. You know, it's I think it's a really cool knife. You maybe if this was out before I got the FX133, I might have got this instead had this been around before that. But nonetheless, no, it's a great knife, outdoors knife. It's just the right kind of size for outdoors work, and it has a slight, you know, maybe tactical look to it for those who like the tactical look as well. But I'm really more interested in the practicality, and I like this division here of the blade geometry. So it's more purposefully designed for, you know, splitting wood. So yeah, if you haven't seen this knife before, do check out my video on the channel. It's about a year old. It's in the playlists anyway, and you can see what I did with this knife outdoors when I first got it. It's held up really well, and yeah, I just think it's a great outdoors knife from Fox.